So you watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, and now you're wondering what would have happened if he was able to direct Justice League 2. Who can blame you? After the release of the 4-hour epic, fans are calling for the Snyder Cut of the rest of the DC Extended Universe films. Now this is very unlikely to happen, so during his press tour, Zack Snyder was extremely candid and revealed what the future might have been for the Dark Knight and the Man of Steel. Now let's take a look at what the original Justice League trilogy might have been. It was originally planned for Snyder to make a few more DC movies after Justice League, but after his departure from the project due to devastating personal tragedy, the plans quickly changed for the future of the DCEU. In an interview with Vanity Fair, Snyder revealed he signed up for a, quote, 5-part trilogy: Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, and 2 sequels to the Justice League. And DC Comics legend artist Jim Lee helped plot out the story, in hopes to turn it into a book someday. Snyder told Vanity Fair, "Jim Lee had done some drawings for me of the entire thing, the entire Pantheon all the way to the new Batman after Batman dies." Yeah, we'll get to the whole new Batman thing shortly. As some comic fans already know, the Flash can do way more than just run fast. Barry Allen has the ability to manipulate the laws of physics and time travel. In the Snyder Cut, Barry's time-traveling abilities were contextualized to set up the future Justice League sequels. On multiple occasions in the film, the Flash reaches the speed of light, and weird things happen to a few characters in close proximity. We're talking about Batman and Cyborg. Bruce Wayne starts to have disturbing premonitions, and Ray Fisher's Cyborg has his own nightmarish visions of the future where Wonder Woman is dead, Darkseid kills Aquaman and his fellow Atlanteans, and a devastated Superman is consoled by Darkseid. We then see a dead Green Lantern Corps member, and moments later, Superman with his eyes glowing red appears one last time, giving the indication that he is under the control of Darkseid through the anti-life equation. And just to make things clear about the Dark Knight's fate, Supes is holding Batman's cowl like a trophy. This preludes a few other big sequences later in the film, which include Lex Luthor and Martian Manhunter. All in all, it seems Flashpoint was going to have a way bigger role in the original Justice League trilogy.
Make your own future.
Towards the end of the film, Martian Manhunter appears voiced by Harry Lennix to introduce himself to Bruce Wayne. While it was cool to see Manhunter and Bruce interact, something felt a little jarring with the scene. Snyder gave some clarity to the matter when he told Vanity Fair that Martian Manhunter was supposed to be a different character. It was originally meant to be the Green Lantern.
Ah, green! Wow. I know, right?
No, not that one. Snyder told Vanity Fair, "We shot a version of the scene with Green Lantern, but the studio really fought me and said, we really don't want you to do Green Lantern. So I made a deal with them and they let me do this instead." Snyder confirmed that John Stewart was tapped for the big cameo. For those who don't know, Stewart took over the mantle of Green Lantern in the 1970s and was the first African-American superhero to appear in DC Comics. Unfortunately for Snyder, producers had other plans for John Stewart, and Snyder was forced to go in another direction. Enter Manhunter. Fans will remember that Harry Lennix previously appeared in both Batman v Superman and Man of Steel as General Swanwick. The original plan was to have the General remain in his human form all the way into the last Justice League films. It was meant to be a big surprise reveal to the audience. Next up, Snyder provided context to Lex Luthor's convo with Deathstroke. In the film, Luthor escapes from an insane asylum and has a sit-down with the DC assassin. And Luthor informs him that Batman is the alter ego of Bruce Wayne.
His name is Bruce Wayne.
Now, this scene was originally planned as a post-credit sequence that would set up Deathstroke as the main antagonist in the next Batman film planned with Ben Affleck. Sadly, the scene needed to be moved around in the Snyder Cut because that Batman movie fell apart when Affleck briefly stepped away from the film. The scene is now used to set up the final dream sequence to give fans a hint to what Deathstroke and Batman's rollercoaster relationship would be like in Justice League sequels. Currently, Robert Pattinson is set to play the Dark Knight in his own standalone film, and Affleck will return in the upcoming Flash movie. Speaking of the Nightmare, in one of the final sequences in the film, Batman, Mira, Deathstroke, Cyborg, and the Flash are doing their best to survive the post-apocalyptic wasteland of Darkseid's siege on Earth. Everything is destroyed or overrun by parademons, and they have to keep moving, as Cyborg explains, because they can be caught if they stand around the open for too long. This is when the Clown Prince decides to intervene and make sure they do exactly that.
He knows exactly what it's like to lose someone he loves.
Snyder revealed that this Nightmare sequence was essentially a gift to the fans so they could see Affleck's Batman and Jared Leto's Joker interact for the first and most likely only time. The scene is loaded with heavy foreshadowing.
Need me to help you undo this world you created by letting her die.
That person that Batman apparently let die is Lois Lane. We bet you were a bit confused as to why Martian Manhunter had such a protective role over Amy Adams' Lois Lane. Well, it turns out that she was going to be the heart, or in Barry's words, the key of the conflict with Superman, Batman, and Darkseid. Snyder told Vanity Fair that Lois was indeed the charred corpse that Superman held in Cyborg's vision of the future. The next two Justice League movies he had in the works were going to feature Darkseid coming to Earth and Superman entrusting Batman to protect Lois. In the midst of Darkseid's blitz, Luthor aligns himself with the galactic villain. Snyder says, Lex tells Darkseid that the key to Superman's weakness is killing Lois Lane. From what we saw in the new cut, Batman is going to fail and this will lead to Superman joining Darkseid's forces with the help of the anti-life equation. Snyder claims that his original plan was for Bruce and Lois to have a romantic relationship during the time Superman was dead. That plan was axed by Warner Brothers very early in the process, but Snyder still wanted to put Batman in the middle of Lois and Superman's relationship by having a role to play in her death, and this would lead to the death of Wonder Woman and many others, setting up the final part of the Justice League trilogy where Batman literally tries to turn back time with the help of the Flash, and apparently, at least in his dream, the Joker. Think the end of Infinity War here. So what would have happened in the final film to reverse Darkseid's destruction in the second movie? Snyder explained that the mother boxes introduced in the first film were going to fix the major damage to the timeline. Snyder says, what happens in the post-apocalyptic world is Cyborg is working on an equation to use the mother boxes to jump Flash back into time to warn Bruce about this moment, where he didn't have the courage to sacrifice himself to save Lois. And yes, we've seen a moment like this with the Flash in Batman v Superman.
It's Lois! It's Lois Lane! She's the key!
And this moment would lead to Bruce doing the right thing and sacrificing himself to save Lois. Superman doesn't succumb to the anti-life equation. Then the final movie has Aquaman leading the forces of Atlantis, Diana leading forces of Themyscira, and Superman and the Flash leading the forces of humans against Darkseid in a giant war. On your left, Superman? In the Snyder Cut, there's a quick shot of Lois Lane's pregnancy test as yet unopened and unused, but with pretty clear implications. In the new cut, Lois may well have been pregnant with Kal-El's son. A new Batman was to replace Bruce Wayne in one of the sequels. Snyder explained, it was going to be Lois and Superman's son. He doesn't have any powers, and then he was going to end up being the new Batman. Snyder continued, explaining that the flash-forward scene would have had Lois and Clark taking their son to the Batcave, where they tell him about Bruce's life. 20 years later, on the anniversary of Batman's death, they take young Bruce Kent down to the Batcave and say, your Uncle Bruce would have been proud if you did this. Anyway, something like that. That's it for us over here, everybody. Like and subscribe, and let us know what you thought of Zack Snyder's complete vision of the Justice League trilogy in the comments down below. Until next time, bye-bye.